Welcome everyone to this first meetup of 2021 with CivicTech Calgary. It's great to have you with us, and we continue our virtual meetups for the foreseeable future, and going from there. But it provides great opportunity to connect anyways and hear of some interesting things that are happening in Calgary. So before we get started with our program, I'll just review a bit of background on CivicTech Calgary for those that might be new to the group. So we are part of this global movement, and CivicTech in its simplest form really is the use of technology for public good. And with a bit more detail, the use of technology and data and design to address challenges that citizens as well as governments are facing, and to come up with opportunities and projects and ideas for citizen engagement and more effective services, and generally to try to make Calgary an even better place for all of us to live. So CivicTech really is what I call an innovation space. It's where people working across a wide variety of sectors come together to help build community and to help solve problems. So CivicTechYYC, we launched in June of 2017. We now have 800 members and continue to grow. Typically our meetups, as with today, are on the second Tuesday of each month. And you can join the group and pass the link to get your friends to join on Meetup. As well, we have a website, so CivicTechYYC.ca, some additional information there. And always enjoy chatting on Twitter and getting some traffic there with our handle at CivicTechYYC. So this month we're thrilled to have NEXTCalgary with us. Organized an amazing project, 1,000 ideas for downtown Calgary. And so Fabian and Darby and Aswari will be introducing themselves and taking us through the rest of the evening. And all of them are associated with the University of Calgary and the School of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape. Great organization there, and doing some amazing stuff. So without further ado, I will pass it on over to whoever is going to take control and bring up the deck. Keep aware of the chat. There's already been some important information put in there. There's a Mural board that we'll be using going through there. But again, if you have any questions or comments, please put them into the chat and we'll field them as we go through later on. All right, take it away.
Awesome. I guess I'm going first. Thank you very much, Jock, for the introduction. Thank you very much, CivicTechYYC, for having us. This is an amazing opportunity. My name is Fabian Neuhaus. I'm an associate professor at the School of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape with UofC. And I'm also leading on this project with NEXTCalgary. And it's kind of a sister project to yours, really, because it's focused on the civic discourse around planning. So what we do is really focusing on how planning can be participatory, and the broader public can chime in, share their knowledge, share their ideas, and take part in the discussion to find the solutions, just very much what you're doing. So that's why it was so exciting to be here. And and chat with you. So we want to show you one of our recent projects, but we would also like to have some of your feedback and some of your input and some of your ideas, not for us personally, but just to share more broadly and to continue the work and sharing this. So we have shared in the chat the link to the Mural Board that we have prepared. Mural is an online whiteboard sort of collaboration platform that we have been using for the past 10 months at SAPL for the work with the students for online collaboration. So we want to use it here too. So feel free to make comments and suggestions and add stuff to the board as we go along. Also here are Aswari Modak and Darby Henshaw. Both of them are part of the NEXTCalgary team. They're graduate researchers on that project, but they're also graduate students in the planning program. So this is their last term. They're about to graduate as professionals, but they're also helping out in the research. And it's interesting how the discipline is sort of shifting, you know, from the pure learning environment towards much more sort of a experiential learning, practice-based learning sort of style. And these research projects are very much, you know, embedded in this. So the students engage with the general public, with stakeholders, they do research, and it's also a learning environment for them. That's what we're working on at university, and all the times are changing to be flexible. Anyhow, I don't really see myself, but that's okay. I only see John. Have you pinned yourself as on the camera or something? Anyhow, I'm going to share my screen, and then the three of us will be presenting briefly an overview of the project, and then hopefully you guys can chime in with ideas and suggestions in the second part of this. So here's my screen share. For now, I'm going to give you an overview. So I take it that you can all see my Mural board. So this is the Mural whiteboard, Mural. So essentially here we are. Welcome to the 1LT Co-Create Downtown Calgary project. So 1LT stands for 1,000 little things. That's the project. It's 1,000 ideas for Downtown Calgary. But what I want to point out in this overview is that those blue boxes here on the side, they are really for you to add comments and contributions. So as you can see here on the side, there's a toolbar when you log in using that link. It's a public link. You can use the sticky note and then go to choose a color and go to one of these blue boxes and write a comment. And then you can resize it if it's too big. So feel free as we go through the presentation to add some comments to these particular ideas and to the project in general, or the status of the downtown, or whatever comes to mind, and then we can pick it up in the discussion. There's also an option, as Geoff has pointed out, to submit comments and suggestions and ideas through the Zoom chat. So there's 4 or 5 of us, so we can all help monitor the various different locations. Right, so I'm going to start the presentation now. This is gonna kick out my screen share. Sorry guys, I have to reshare my screen. There we go. So welcome to the presentation. 1LT Co-Create Downtown Calgary. It is really NEXTCalgary, as I said, is about the civic discourse, and it's about participation. So it's exploring potential beyond engagement. What could be participation? What could be collaboration about the civic? Sorry, not the civic, but the built environment, and what could be co-creation? How can we all work together to do this? This is our understanding of the city as an artifact. A lot of different players, stakeholders, agents share in this big project and play a role. And acknowledging that, we have to negotiate all of these players together and sort of mediate their agendas and their expectations and their visions. But together we've created an amazing city, and we can continue to do so. So that's the exciting part. And this project sort of is a small contribution to that. Here we go. So this particular project from NEXTCalgary is focused on the downtown. As you all know, the downtown is hurting. There's a big vacancy rate. Even before COVID, there is limited activity. Obviously now during COVID, businesses are struggling. What do we do with this space? And how do we go forward? That's not unique to Calgary. A lot of downtowns across North America, it's the same. But particularly in Calgary, with the boom and bust cycles and the dominant economic sort of actors that are not doing very well at the moment, it has sort of rippling effects across the city. So, and downtown is a sort of an iconic sort of project essentially for Calgary. And we wanted to make a contribution. Now that's not unique. A lot of different groups have made contributions and are making contributions, and the discussion has been ongoing for a long time. So the Calgary Economic Development Group is doing a lot of work. Obviously, the communities downtown are doing a lot of work. 1 million square feet, a new project downtown, is doing a tremendous effort to populate spaces downtown and reactivate in a collaborative approach. The city of Calgary obviously is doing lots and lots of work on this in different configurations. ULI is doing work, and the university, the different schools, and many more. So we're just one other group sort of chiming in, and we thought that a collection of ideas as sort of a standalone thing that could be a contribution to plug into the various ongoing discourses and support that discussion, which it really should be broad and with a lot of contributors. So we started with a block week in October with the students. That's a 1 week sort of course that focuses on a specific topic, kind of outside of the general term projects and the term courses that the students are taking. So that's sort of a short, intense, specific focus for us, sort of a window into experimental sort of activities. And we started working with a number of partners. So SAPL, that's the School of Architecture, Planning and Landscape. We have invited experts from Germany, Urbanista. That's a planning practice in Hamburg. And they invited them to co-lead the block week with us. And then we set up the block week as a collaboration between the students and stakeholders in the downtown. This block week was made possible by the Richard Parker Initiative and then also obviously supported by NEXTCalgary. But the idea was to build on research that we have done over the summer, where we sort of started building in a stakeholder inventory about the downtown, who's involved, what roles do they play, what sort of initiatives have these stakeholders done in the past, what role do they play, what sort of expectations do they have. So lots and lots of interviews is what we did with the students over the summer in the research project, and building on this, we wanted to create this pool of ideas to plug in. And now the 1,000 little things, which is the title of the project, actually came out of one of those interviews. That was an interview with Drew Farrell from Ward 7, the councillor. And one of the remarks she made was like, it's not going to be this one big, huge project about that will change Calgary. It's going to be 1,000 little things that will come together as sort of a puzzle, the little pieces that are kind of, and in little increments is how the downtown is going to change. And that fitted in perfectly with the vision and our understanding of how the built environment emerges with all these players involved. Everybody makes a small contribution, and from there it evolves. So we took that as a quote and as a title for for the block. So that's a little bit of an overview of the block week, and I'm going to hand it over to Darby to talk about the actual block week and what we did, how we came up with the ideas. Is it okay for you, Darby, if I click the slides? Just tell me when you want to go to the next.
For sure, sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for having me. As Fabian said before, my name is Darby and I'm one of the student researchers working on the project here. And yeah, I'm going to take you through some of the key things that happened in the workshop for the 1LT block week. So this project all started, as Fabian said, within a block week course presented by the SAPL faculty at the University of Calgary. And this week-long program immersed students into co-creation and engagement through a strategic daily topic. As you can see in the visual here, each day had a different format and topic to guide our research and learning. And this daily topic was introduced and described through the experiences of keynote speakers, student collaboration, and panel reviews. So this strategic mix of speakers were both from international and local approaches, and this really helped students understand what co-creation looks like at a global scale. And the intermix of both international and local approaches also helped to reduce the current physical barriers that are present during this pandemic lifestyle that we're currently living in by creating this entirely online virtual engagement. And some of the key stakeholders that were noted that really helped us guide our research were from the Downtown West Community Association, Guy Priddle from Cadillac Fairview, Rob Blackwell from Aspen Properties, and Sunny Tomic from the City of Calgary. So the next slide, please. Awesome, Fabian. So the students were tasked within their workshop groups to collaborate throughout the week using virtual tools. There were 5 groups that collaborated together. So these virtual tools included Zoom, that we're of course using right now, and the interactive task management software Miro. And this application allowed the students to contribute to their analysis in real time, which strengthened the overall sense of group collaboration in general. So using this daily topic that I talked about before, we gathered information through key holder engagement sessions, and we were tasked to create over 200 ideas to implement within downtown Calgary. And once these 200 ideas were created, they would ultimately come together to create 1,000 little things to revitalize the downtown core. So these ideas were to be innovative and thoughtful, each requiring careful consideration of elements such as timeline, expense, scale, seasonality, and location, just to name a few things. As we can see in the visuals here in the yellow box, that were just a few of the indicators that really led the process. And next slide. Thank you. So ultimately, the ideas created by the groups were sorted by theme to help guide and inform an overall vision for the downtown. So we can see 5 very different posters here with the same vision of having this co-created downtown core. But at the end of each of the workshop days and ultimately the week, each group had cultivated a unique outlook for the future of the downtown, guided by co-creation and engagement. And these visions were showcased to a panel of stakeholders who considered the reality and feasibility of these ideas while also sharing the creativity of their own. And the next slide. Thank you. So the workshop was ultimately successful in creating a wide variety of innovative ways to creatively change the downtown. And we noticed that there was a plethora of content available at our fingertips at the end, which offered this unique research opportunity to continue as an exploratory analysis of co-creation and engagement. So staying within this virtual realm, we questioned how social media could be used to share these ideas and create a conversation about downtown Calgary, and maybe a different way using the using the silver lining of distance at the moment. So this paved the way for our social media campaign with NEXTCalgary titled 1LT. And our social media campaign process began with a few key questions that I put down at the bottom here, including which social media platforms should we use, who would be interested, how do we broadcast this content, and how do we make this interactive for people? Next slide. So due to the large amount of ideas and content available for promotion, we began our social media campaign using Twitter, as it had significant capabilities to broadcast a large amount of information at once. So the goal was to tweet all of the 1,000 ideas before 2021, and this required us to schedule at least 20 tweets a day. Each tweet included a matrix graphic, as we can see in the middle of the slide here. And this helped to inform the viewer of the specifics of each idea. As I talked to you before, we had very specific requirements just to help understand each of our ideas. And this was just a very visual way for someone to understand what we were talking about. And we also cultivated key hashtags, including hashtag 1LT, hashtag the big 1000, hashtag the little 20, and hashtag YYC to help brand our campaign and connect to the community and create that natural connection. So overall, the goal was to use the tools of the application to the fullest extent, which required us to adapt a lot as the project went on. So this included integrating and investigating more graphics, as well as interactive tools such as polls along the way. And next slide. And we also used Instagram. So this social media platform is best for visualization purposes. And we noticed that users were more likely to engage to the content that included a visual. So we began showcasing user photos of downtown Calgary and created short video reels. And this actually this contributed to the conversation in general, just reaching out to community members on Instagram, looking at their photos, looking at their captions, what they felt in that specific area, and adding our own ideas to them. So we also conducted polls, which was a simple interactive way for people to contribute to the conversation, as well as 2 giveaways throughout the project timeframe, which produced some conversations surrounding downtown Calgary and also encouraged users to share ideas of their own. We even partnered with local services for these giveaways to reinforce the aspect of community. Next slide. So overall, this project has been significantly successful in many ways. We managed to generate a substantial list of local connections, which showcases a significant possibility for future engagement on social media platforms. One of the more difficult aspects of the project was initially creating a network of people, although we found as time goes on, our platform does grow larger. We have also found that having various options for people to engage has helped the project. By having both Twitter and Instagram at our fingertips, we were able to target different users. This is very similar to traditional engagement practices though too, where there are both in-person and online formats to increase accessibility and overall user engagement. But overall, one of the strengths of this campaign was connecting our content to users through visuals on both platforms, Twitter and Instagram. We found that the mixed methods approach was well received by users, and as was demonstrated through the statistics. But we believe that the most successful contribution the content has produced in creation of conversation around the future of downtown Calgary. So we managed to make a considerable impression on Twitter and Instagram over this period, and which is ultimately a success on its own. I'll hand it over to Aswari.
Thank you, Darby. Thanks. That was really good. So now that you all have an idea of the fundamentals of the workshop and the social media campaign, we also thought of sharing some cool ideas with you that the students came up with during the course of the workshop. But before I do that, just on the lines of what Darby was talking about, so the giveaways that we did, interestingly, the first giveaway, we had over 20 conversations with 20 different people where they came in and suggested to us what they would like to see in downtown. A lot of those comments were interestingly about ride share bikes. So that is one thing that we found that residents of downtown or Calgary in general would like to see in downtown Calgary. But yeah, anyways, moving on. So during the workshop, as Darby already mentioned, the ideas were mapped according to 4 aspects. So the seasonality, the cost, the scale, and the timeline of the project. And yeah, let's go to the next slide. Thank you, Fabian. So yeah, as a side note, I would like to mention the 4-part publication comprising of all of these 1,000 ideas, which were thought of by students in collaboration with the downtown stakeholders. So the entire publication is split into 4 booklets. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So interestingly, the first booklet comprising of over 250 of these ideas is actually coming out this month. And it will be followed by 3 other booklets comprising of the remaining ideas. And even the images that you see on the cover page have actually been taken by users that were following NEXTCalgary. So they were worked on by another research assistant, Rajat, who was also in the team with us. So those are the results of all of those 1,000 ideas, and you can definitely get links to them or get them online. Next slide. So yeah, so as I mentioned, we had like different themes for the ideas, but before I move on to highlighting some of the ideas which are related to new tech or already existing tech, but they are not being used in Calgary, I would like to mention that all of you can at this point head over to the Mural board and you can leave us comments while I'm discussing these ideas, and then we can pick them up later at the end of this section. So for example, the first one, safety and accessibility. So this was one of the very popular ideas. Many students mentioned this. It was to have free Wi-Fi all over downtown. So while this is already happening across various cities in the globe, it's still yet to happen in Calgary. So that was one of the themes, safety and accessibility. If we move on to the next theme on the next slide. Awesome. So environment and sustainability. So a lot of the ideas had to do with this, and some of the interesting ones were based off of generative energy and kinetic pavers to power city amenities. So as people are walking, power is generated, and that power would further be used into city amenities like lights or maybe USB charging ports for phones or even electric vehicles. In the next slide, we have we'll quickly go through these cool ideas. Okay, so this one's for transportation and mobility. So for example, the first one is street electric car charging stations. Then there were some other cool ideas that were bounced around, such as reusable contactless store value smart cards, which would basically power everything from your grocery shopping all the way to your transit pass. And some other ideas also were autonomous vehicles in downtown, which would be really useful in mobility and transportation. And moving on to the next slide. Thanks. So community and inclusion. So some students also focused on community and inclusion through the ideas. And quite a few students brought up the need to have public feedback machines in one way or another. There was another really interesting idea about a living lab that was bounced around, where essentially a public space such as an Olympic Plaza would have some sort of semi-permanent structure where people could come in and experience different forms of tech. Now, I don't know what exactly were the technologies that the students had in mind, but the essential idea was to get these technologies to the common man. Moving on to the next one. So for activity and entertainment, this was really popular amongst the students. And one of the most popular ideas was to use QR codes for different things. So someone suggested QR codes on heritage buildings. So essentially tourists would go, they would just look up the QR code and get the information about the heritage site. And this could essentially form a heritage tour throughout downtown, explaining all the important sites and landmarks. Another cool idea, oh, sorry for using the word cool so much, but I think these ideas are pretty cool. But another idea was to have a scavenger hunt, which actually I saw an advertisement of recently that's happening in downtown through QR codes. So that's pretty cool. And someone also brought up the idea of having outdoor computers for public use, which is, I think, extremely important because there's so many homeless people or people who are experiencing homelessness in Calgary downtown, and they don't have access to internet or social media or even any sort of basic news channels. And another idea was video projection on buildings, again, to increase the tourism, to have some sort of activity and entertainment through the urban built form. And yeah, moving on to the next slide. So yeah, that's some of the key ideas in the tech part that we came across. We would love to hear your comments on if you think these ideas are feasible, or if they are feasible, what could be done in order to make them more feasible, or if there are any ideas that you have, any tech ideas that you have which could be good for downtown Calgary. We are all ears and open to discussion now. I can already see some post-it notes coming up on the mural.
Yeah, for sure. We can, you know, if you want to put things in the mural, and then they can be passed along as well. If you want to make a comment directly, just put a letter Q into the chat, and then I'll kind of call on people individually, and you can kind of, you know, unmute yourself as we go through if you want to talk yourself, or just write it into the chat, and I can speak it out to our presenters. Is there anything in the mural you want to cover off there?
Somebody is working on the mural board here. So am I still sharing my screen? Can you still see this? QR code art embedded.
You can see the mural, yeah.
See what's the, I don't know. QR code art is one of the ideas that have been posted on the mural. Well, there's lots of guests on the mural board, so it is accessible to people. Yeah. So please just feel free to come up with ideas there. Yeah, I guess, you know, one. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of our, so at CivicTech, we kind of work through projects. People kind of have ideas, and then we kind of, if there's enough people interested, they kind of launch a project. So one of the projects that was a sort of a public art mapping project, which, you know, was somewhat similar to some of the suggestions here, right? Where you could use a QR code, or based on your GPS location, you know, the various details on a piece of public art would be revealed to you.
So how to use the Mural board? Just use the sticky note on the side in the toolbar. On the left of your screen, you see a toolbar, and the fourth from the top with the folded corner is a sticky note. You can click on it and then click anywhere on the board, and it will add a sticky note for you that you can type your message onto. Then you can drag it around and place it.
Also,
go ahead, Darby. Yeah.
You could also just put the idea in the chat, and I don't mind doing that for you as well. And I can do the sticky notes, and we can generate some conversation here. I know that, like, when we were collaborating as students, something that we started to get the juices going was we were thinking about what we do every day, like day-to-day life, you know, from the moment you leave your door to the moment you come home, and what are some of those key things that would make your life a little bit easier. Right. That's where we started.
Yeah, so it would be good, Darby and others, if you could read out what's on the mural board, because for the recording, right, people will not be able to see the mural board. So as a way of kind of bringing it back into this presentation, it would be good just to read them out if there are entries there.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. And John, why don't you just put it in the chat, the suggestion about international community use of spaces in buildings downtown, and Darby can type it into a sticky note on the mural board.
So we have one comment here for transportation and mobility. Someone has put in recharge parking pads for micro-mobility.
That would be the scooters, I presume, that we have during the summer.
Lime scooters. How about this one? I found it quite interesting. The one for environment and sustainability, having kinetic pavers and sidewalk energy tiles. Do we think this is something that is feasible in Calgary? Could it be done? I mean, in a city which is experiencing 8 months of winters. Any comments on that? Are people walking that much to create that sort of energy?
It would be something like you could put in the +15s, right? Because there's a lot of traffic, or at least there used to be a lot of traffic in the +15s, and you avoid some of the winter issues in the +15s as well. So that would be an idea. Like, do you know whether that type of idea has been implemented somewhere else?
I think I read it be, that's where I got the picture actually, the second picture. I don't remember where exactly it is, but it has been done.
Okay.
They actually were doing that in London, near Oxford, I believe, and that's where one of the trials for this type of paver went in, or tiles went in. So London gets a wide variety of weather, so I would be interested to see how they deal with ice and snow and whatnot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and even Geo's take on having it in the +15s, it's quite interesting. People are using that during the winter, then why not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are 10,000 of people crossing these bridges. So that might be generating quite a bit of energy.
So John has
maybe some on the ice skating rink in Olympic Plaza. Yeah, sorry, Darby, go on.
That's okay. John has an idea here in the chat that I'll add to the mural board. Use space in buildings to create an intentional community of 25 to 30 households, kind of like co-housing communities, but with additional focus on certain intentions. That's a really great idea, and we definitely experimented a little bit with this during the co-creation sessions in Block Week. We were told by some of the building owners, specifically Guy Priddle from Cadillac Fairview, that unfortunately the floor plate for some of these buildings is unable to accommodate residential like housing. But it would be interesting if we could somehow change that and do some sort of infill. That is an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a really good example of sort of forward thinking. And you guys have probably all heard about it, but it's the Platform Calgary kind of building, right? That is starting off as sort of a parking garage with some offices and innovation space, but spaces for parking that are constructed in a way that can be converted into additional offices or community space or whatever. So it's pre-designed, right? As we need less and less parking in the city, those floors of parking can be relatively easily converted because they've already architecturally and planning wise, they've already thought about what the ceiling height needs to be and where the hallways would go and things like that. So that's a really great example in Calgary. It's actually being built right now.
That's yeah, that's one of the good ones, and there's some other ones like the Edison and other buildings that start to implement more mixed use. Just to come back to John's question, and transforming office space into housing. What is the constraint? He's asking, is the typology really the daylight? If you think about it, you know, how much floor space do you have with direct windows and daylight? So there's a lot of space on these office towers that is essentially in the dark unless you have an open office, and that sort of limits the floor plan usage. But as you are suggesting, you know, a household with 25 to 30 people, sort of a large community. An extended family, if you want, might have very different requirements for a floor plan and for housing. So that would be worth exploring, I guess. What that could be, you know, where we could have more private areas and more sort of shared public areas for that kind of accommodation. That'd be interesting.
I see a comment around inexpensive small studios for artists. That's a great idea.
Yeah, as well as temporary usages, you know, we're quite flexible, could go in for 3 weeks and then go out again. And that would, you know, activation is really one of the big topics. If people see the downtown empty and dead, that affects, you know, the spirit essentially, generally. But if there is stuff happening, people are commuting still downtown, there's the frontages are being activated, there's life downtown, that is sort of transforms the experience and the expectations quite dramatically immediately. So even temporary uses can be very productive.
Anything else on the mural board that you want to draw attention to?
Robot and micromobility. Sure, robot deliveries, I guess are the thoughts here. Make space for those.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Over the summer, I was using Lime a lot. And apparently, if you're using Lime, you're supposed to use the pavements that the pedestrians use, but then they are not wide enough. If there's a group of pedestrians going, there's not enough space for the Lime bike to go as well. And like the bike lanes just disappear in downtown. Like they go up until one point, but then they just disappear. So you don't know what to do after that. So you have to switch to the pavements where already so many pedestrians are walking.
There's a comment about interactive art pieces around the city center. Those are always great ideas. I mean, what that brings to mind is the you know, the old piano, right? That gets put out on Stephen Avenue, or whatever, right? Just kind of randomly, and then just people start kind of playing the piano, right, at lunch hour or whenever. Just and that's a great hit. And I can see you know, some of these art pieces being more interactive and in similar ways as well would draw a lot of attention and create a lot more interest than just having a static piece of art.
Yeah, so there is quite a bit of ideas now starting to emerge. That's great. And I guess, you know, there's also, it was mentioned, the interactive facades. That'd be interesting, you know, if we could all play around the facades and the lighting on the facades. We have one building now that is kind of, it's not really interactive, but it's dynamic, certainly at night with the lights. Any thoughts on that? To activate essentially the skyline of the downtown.
I mean, those are always interesting, right? I mean, the various light displays we already have, right? Whether it's the Calgary Tower, and of course the new TELUS building, if you've seen it, is really exciting in terms of the way that's been designed and the sort of the kind of Northern Lights aspects of what's displayed on the TELUS building. So variations of that, or maybe smaller scale versions of that, in, you know, more across the city would be a really interesting as well.
Also, I would like to hear from some people about this. One of the stakeholders said that one of the issues that they were having getting people downtown and, you know, having that people-oriented streetscape is the inability to liven up the ground floor uses. So we had a lot of different things such as art walks or, you know, different seating areas in plazas and stuff like that to liven it up and not make it look so public-private divide, maybe a little bit more welcoming. So I was just curious if anybody had any ideas for that, how the streetscape could maybe be a little bit more engaging at the human scale.
That will take a little bit of time for people to respond in writing on the board.
Sure.
But in the meantime, just you know, another thought on the Plus 15 interactive app. I mean, the Plus 15 is a unique situation for the downtown. Very interesting as a project, you know, as a public-private partnership to create an infrastructure for the public over the course of I don't know, about 50 years now, and it's still developing and growing. And that's a very interesting piece from a planning perspective, but definitely also from a user perspective. But as we've already experienced, it is a maze. It is quite difficult to navigate there. So this kind of interactive app or map could be a very interesting thing to do. I understand there have been several approaches. I don't know whether your group was involved in any of those, but there's some maps online, you know, halfway working, but some improvement could certainly be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the presenters we had a year or so ago was this concept of Calgary Dollars. I'm not sure if you've come across that or not, but it like you can imagine, you know, some sort of and I think Pokemon Go was kind of suggested in one of the cards here, but maybe a Calgary version of Pokemon Go that would be maybe a bit of a course that people would take and, you know, try to reach various milestones or historic sites or art pieces or whatever. And as they gather points, they could be redeemed for these Calgary Dollars, which would, you know, start to help Calgary businesses as well. So I think some of these kind of kind of combining some of these ideas together creates a kind of a mega idea that might have a lot of appeal for a few reasons.
Yeah, definitely. And then as you were saying earlier, you know, the model being that if you know, if a group emerges that is interesting in pushing and developing an idea or a combination of ideas further, I think that's certainly quite an interesting way to develop these things. And it's not, you know, I think that's the kind of the civic approach. A lot of different players can make a contribution to all of this, and also in collaboration, obviously, with others as downtown stakeholders. So a group like yours, focusing on technology expertise, teaming up with some of the building owners or sort of the investors downtown could be quite exciting. So 1 million square feet is one of those groups. The 1M project that has just been launched last year is sort of partially providing a platform for things like this to happen. So that's interesting. You know, we can leave. That was another question in the chat. You know, whether the Mural Board can remain online. We can leave it online and open so that we can maybe grow the list of ideas a little bit more over the next few days and see what emerges.
There is a comment.
Certainly be open for that.
There's a comment in the chat that what popped into my head is an example that is within the old Woodwards redevelopment on Powell Street in downtown Vancouver. The ground floor level plaza has a piano for public use within the center, as well as a basketball court. This plaza is open to the 3 surrounding building residences, as well as the public off the street shopping on the retail at grade. Yeah, so that's kind of a creative multi-use kind of area for people to interact in better times. Anyways, but we'll get back to that. Another comment around heated sidewalks. Reduce falls and require less snow removal, maybe just on highly trafficked pedestrian areas. Yeah, no, certainly after that last big snowfall, it was brutal, right? Like, I mean, it took days and days for the city to clear many of the sidewalks in various areas. And so I guess the question is how you would heat it in a way that would be economical. Maybe you use the pedestrian traffic, or you use the car traffic somehow, right? For the cars to rolling into downtown or something, create some sort of kinetic energy that can heat, could be delivered into the sidewalks as heat. That would be kind of cool. So there's a comment about, so we have similar concepts in Devonian Gardens here in Calgary, where there's a public piano. Maybe we can find a way how to maximize the garden, you know, hold various art exhibitions and do various things as well. Yeah, I mean, that whole Devonian Garden is a bit of a gem in Calgary that, you know, that it was closed for many years, and then they had to, you know, redevelop it and kind of reopened it. But it's a fairly unique space that probably doesn't get as much use as it maybe could or should.
Yeah, that's
Recently,
go ahead.
I was just saying the Devonian Gardens, yeah, I mean, they're really pretty. And when COVID had just started, they started doing this thing called dome dining inside the Devonian Garden. So it was essentially a dome structure where you go in like smaller groups, like 2 or 3 people. So you're essentially socially distancing while having a fine dining experience. But again, the question also lies in how do we make it more publicly accessible? Do people know that there's a garden up there? How do we advertise that?
That's when the displays come into play at the elevator. There was a comment about that somewhere I saw earlier. There was somebody saying something about touchscreen displays on the elevators. Maybe that's the way to go. You know, have big screens advertising this in the ground floor. But that's always the challenge on how do you connect to the different levels in the urban environment. That's already a challenge with the plus 15, which is just at the level plus 15. But if it's at the level plus 100, but certainly making that connection would be interesting. One of the ideas I remember in the bigger collection was to activate actually the roofs of the plus 15s as sort of pedestrian areas too. It just comes to mind.
We're coming towards the top of the hour, so I think what might be best is, you know, if you guys can make sure that the Mural link is in your presentation, so that when people get a copy, if they haven't been on this session, from the presentation, they can launch the Mural if it isn't already. And then, yeah, if we can kind of keep that Mural going and people can kind of contribute to it on kind of a asynchronous type of level. I guess the kind of one final question I guess I would have for you guys is that I know you're sort of trying to compile the list of ideas and that sort of thing, and I think that's great. In terms of sort of socializing the ideas with, you know, with those that can actually make some of the ideas into reality, I guess would be my question. You know, what are you doing, or what could be done really to, kind of make sure the ideas get into the hands of the right people that can actually have some of these things happen.
Honestly, so far, like with the launch of the social media campaign, we have tried to connect with a lot of stakeholders through Twitter. So with the ideas, we have been tagging the appropriate accounts. So if, for example, there were some accounts that were really active, including yours, and then we had some others such as Sustainable Calgary and even Chinatown. So sometimes when we like posted the idea along with a question, so for example, one student had this idea about urban lookout spots, right? So we asked that tweet along with that question, like, where do you think could be the appropriate urban lookout spot? And then we got some answers. There was one from Chinatown, one from Sustainable Calgary. So far, what the social media campaign has actually done is just get these ideas to the people. Now, we hope that those ideas are in good hands, and then there's something that is being done about those ideas. There was a time we also tagged City of Calgary. It was something about garbage disposal, if I'm not wrong, and they had replied back that they are actually working on that exact idea. So through the social media campaign, I would say so far that we have tried to reach out to the right people who can have these ideas at the back of their minds when they are designing for the future of Calgary.
Great, great. And it would be nice, in a year or two, whenever, once you guys are all in your jobs and working away, that maybe there could be some sort of look back, right, to see what happened and how many got implemented and or related ideas kind of happen. But super. Well, I thank you guys so much for taking the time and presenting to us. I think if folks are interested in contributing, certainly add comments to the Mural Board. But of course, they can use your social media as well. Is that account going to continue for the foreseeable future, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
continue.
It is going to continue, and we want to push the discussion further, involve more people, and see where this takes us. But it's really about building these connections and building these collaborations to make stuff happen from here on. We have plenty of ideas. We can grow the collection, but we also want to focus on next steps, on how things can start to happen in small, increments in the downtown and maybe throughout. So thank you very much, Geoff. Thank you very much, CivicTechYYC, for having us, and thank you so much, Darby and Aswari, for making this possible. Thank you so much for the
Yeah, fantastic. It was a real pleasure.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Pleasure to have you guys with us, and good luck into the future. So I look forward to the next CivicTech meetup, which will be on the second Tuesday of February. We'll post the event as we develop the content and go from there. So have a great evening and enjoy the first part of 2021 as we go forward, and take care. So bye now.